We're going to be talking about how to overcome challenges. Maybe you're not exercising enough. Maybe you're not eating healthy foods, and you've got other issues that are really stumbling blocks for you to be able to achieve optimal health. I am going to fly my colors today. I have my Make America Healthy Again hat. Robert Kennedy, I'm sure everybody that listening today knows about Robert Kennedy. And I am so pumped about his whole perspective on how to make America healthy again. So I want to fly my colors, and I believe that we can do it, and we can overcome the major obstacles that we have in this country that are impeding the people from becoming healthy. As Robert Kennedy says, America used to be healthy, but unfortunately, big business has overtaken our country's healthcare system, and we need to do something about it. And here on The Other Side of Medicine, we are doing it, and we're starting right now. Welcome to The Other Side of Medicine, a trusted source for education, not medication, for 35 years. In every episode of The Other Side of Medicine, we deliver health information your doctor won't tell you about. My guests are the nation's leading health experts in science-based natural medicine, physicians, authors, researchers, and clinicians. We believe natural medicine should be first, drugs and surgery last, and so we promise to deliver you the next generation of health information built on three principles: common sense, science, and cooperation with nature. I'm Dr. Christosic. You can call me Dr. J. And today we have a special episode for you that I think you're really going to love, because we're going to be talking about how to overcome challenges when you decide in your mind to overcome the obstacle of living a poor lifestyle. Maybe you're not exercising enough. Maybe you're not eating healthy foods like you should. Maybe you're smoking and you don't want to smoke, or you're drinking too much. Maybe you have unforgiveness in your heart, and you've got other issues that are really stumbling blocks for you to be able to achieve optimal health. Well, today you're going to be blessed with some really good words of wisdom, because we have a special guest coming up on the program, and I am going to introduce her just 1 minute, but I want to just share with you a couple of thoughts that I have, because I've seen over 20,000 patients. And the biggest thing that I have discovered is that most people want to be healthy, but many people are not willing, first of all, to pay the price. And some people have fears because of the unknown. Well, that's very, very common, but we're going to give you some real practical tips today on how to be able to overcome those obstacles so you can rise above that and you could achieve optimal wellness. You could become independently healthy. See, the body has the ability to heal itself, and all you have to do is tap in to the reserves that are sitting there that are not being utilized by conventional medicine. Unfortunately, your doctor won't tell you about these things because they're too busy prescribing medications. Unfortunately, there are way too many medications prescribed today. Here on The Other Side of Medicine, we are not opposed to medications sometimes when they're necessary, especially in emergencies. But a pill for every ill is absurd. And I think most people would agree with that. So without going any deeper into what I want to say, I want to hear what our guest has to say today. This is Katharine Giovanni. I love that name. And Katharine is an expert in helping people to overcome these obstacles, the positive mindset, and many other tools that she has to give. And one of the things she's really going to talk about today is, besides all the other things, we're going to be talking about how to forgive. And she has a very special system to be able to teach you how to forgive, even though it seems insurmountable to be able to do that to somebody that has offended you in some way. So, Katharine Giovanni, welcome to The Other Side of Medicine.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Good. Well, we're glad to have you here. And before we get started, I am going to fly my colors today. I have my, is that on right? Am I on straight? Yeah, I think so. my Get America and Make America Healthy Again. Robert Kennedy, I'm sure everybody that are listening today knows about Robert Kennedy. And I am so pumped about his whole perspective on how to make America healthy again. So I want to fly my colors, and I believe that we can do it, and we can overcome the major obstacles that we have in this country that are impeding the people from becoming healthy. As Robert Kennedy says, America used to be healthy, but unfortunately, big business has overtaken our country's healthcare system, and we need to do something about it. And here on the other side of medicine, we are doing it, and we're starting right now with Katharine Giovanni. Katharine, tell us some words of wisdom about how you got started in this whole milieu, this whole mindset.
I think it started when my mother died. I mean, I come from a dysfunctional family, tried to commit suicide in the 8th grade, alcoholic parents, blah, 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 but when my mother died, she fell, broke her hip, fell down some stairs, and ended up in Lenox Hill Hospital. And even my mother couldn't get a gin and tonic in the hospital, so she dried out. And we spent the next 3 years closer than sisters. We forgave each other. We became friends. And then she died. And I knew that if I didn't change my own life, I was going to die too. So I'm 34 years sober. And I kind of, when you first get sober, you're told you have to make amends and you have to do steps and all these things. You have to reach out to people. I'm shy. I was born shy. So reaching out to people leaves me cold. Now I'm called an extroverted introvert now, because over the years, I'm in my 60s now. So now I've taught myself how to do it, but it was very hard back then. But I started to forgive people. And I just used to say, I forgive you. The thing about forgiveness is everybody says you have to do it. Nobody teaches you how. And when you hear about forgiveness, 10 out of 10 people, including you more than likely, on a 10 scale, with 10 being horrific, unforgivable dumpster fire, and 1 being the easiest person to forgive in the world, everybody's thinking about their number 10 as I'm talking.
Sure. So we're going to dive into we'll dive into that in a couple of minutes. But before we get into it, there's some things I want to set the table before we jump into that. Okay. And I know you've got some really special tips on how to teach people how to forgive. But let's just kind of start by looking at when people are trying to change their lifestyle, which is very, very important for me, because I see it every day that people have fears. They have fears that they don't have the confidence that they can do it, and they feel they're going to be a failure. What do you suggest for people who are walking around with these fears that oftentimes are even hidden? They don't even know they have them.
I am a breast cancer survivor, stage 3 breast cancer survivor. And I got breast cancer in 12 years ago. And when you get breast cancer, at least they did back then, they send you to chemo class. And we're talking about the other side of medicine. And that's how I kind of healed myself. But I did do the Western, I did the chemo. They sent me to chemo class, and they tell you all the nasty things that are going to happen, the side effects and the pills. Nothing good, not what you should be eating, not what you should be thinking, not what you should be exercising, just the bad stuff. And my brain snapped. So Nurse Ratched is at the front of the room spewing all this negativity. So I walked up to her and I said, I'm not getting any of that. She looked at me and she drawled, I live in the South. Honey, you're going to get all of these things. And I looked at her and I said, no, I'm not.
But you don't want to get all the things that they were talking about, the side effects.
Nope. So I went through chemo, went through radiation, did all those horrible stuff, operations. But through it, I kept my positivity. I kept my gratitude. I kept my eye on the prize. She comes up to me a year later. She said, Mrs. Giovanni. I'm in the hall and I'm thinking, yes. I had no idea what she's going to say. She said, what are you doing? I looked at her and I said, what do you mean? What am I doing? She said, you're not as sick as everybody else. You had stage 3. We hit you with some bad stuff. Why aren't you sicker? And I looked at her and I said, you remember a year ago when I told you I wasn't going to get as sick? That's what I did. I'm also eating clean and a few other things, but that's what I did. Your mind is the most powerful instrument you have. So when you get cancer, the big C word, you're going to be scared. And of course you are. Everybody is. They all think they're going to die. Cancer doesn't kill as many people as it used to, but your body and your mindset is critically important, because whatever you think, you're probably right. So I thought, I have a choice. I can take the local train to health, which is filled with medicine and illness and all these other horrible things. I could take the express. So I took the express and I did what the doctors told me, but I also ate clean. I remained positive, which is kind of like taking a shower. I recommend you do it every day. And when you're in pain with cancer, it's a minute by minute choice. It's a minute by minute choice to stay grateful. It's a minute by minute choice to forgive all of these horrible things. But why am I still alive today? That's why. And if you're facing a horrible, horrible disease, take it minute by minute and be grateful that you're still here, and be grateful that you have access to all of these other things. But there's more to health than just modern day medicine. Sometimes it's all in your mind.
I really applaud you for taking that step and that mindset to rise above your circumstances with a positive mindset, and being able to, even though you were at that point vulnerable, you made a choice to rise above it all, which is really awesome. What are some of the misconceptions that people have about, the things that interplay in their life? The lack of confidence, the inability to think that they can overcome obstacles like changing their lifestyle. What are some of the things that you feel people harbor in their minds that are incorrect?
They're used to a certain story. Their family has put them in a box, and they've labeled that box, and you've accepted that box. I was known as the family rebel, but my parents were alcoholics. So I thought, as a kid, if I do everything the opposite of what they did, I'll probably be okay. I was right. For an adult. For a kid, not so much. It just pissed them off. So they labeled me as a rebel. And so I went through, and I was raised in the 60s and 70s, where men and women were raised completely different, very sexist. And it was what it was. It was a different world back then, wasn't it? But they put me in this box, and as the family blank up, as the family rebel, and I wasn't. And at some point, you have to think to yourself, well, if everybody thinks I'm a mess up, well, maybe I should just do it and prove them right, because they all think I'm doing it anyways. I wasn't, but maybe I should. So a label is put on kids, and it's up to you once you get into your teen years. And remember, I was an angry teenager, but at some point you have to take it out and say, is that who I am? Do I want to be my story? Because if I lose my story, I'm a survivor of a dysfunctional house. I'm a survivor of suicide. I'm a survivor of all these things. Look at me. I'm a survivor. But if I lose that story, that's scary. Who am I? But may I submit to you that if you lose the story, you might become the person you were always meant to be from the beginning.
Yeah, a lot of people have a lack of understanding of the potential they have inside of them. If they just look inside, and there's untapped potential, how do we tap into that potential?
I think you have to take those rose-colored glasses off, and you have to say, this is who they thought I was, but this is who I am. And I think you have to take the bull by the horns, to use a very old expression, and blaze your own trail. Because it's kind of what I did. I ignored what my family was telling me. I ignored the people who said I was this and I was that. And I thought, I know there's bigger things for me. And I just kind of took it on myself. And I listened to that little bird on my shoulder that everybody has. It's called your intuition. I wrote a book about it a while back. And if you trust your intuition, it's never going to steer you wrong. So I trusted my intuition. I trusted what I was hearing, and it was kind of like a breadcrumb trail that I found. And I made my way out of that darkness. I've now written 12 books. I'm one of the founders of the independent concierge industry, breast cancer survivor, blah, blah, blah. Am I really smart? Not particularly. I know how to listen to the little bird on my shoulder. I
You're
trusted my
wise.
intuition.
You're wise. You're very
Yeah,
wise.
I
Here's
know how to listen.
something happened to me early on. I was told over and over and over, Jimmy, you're never going to amount to anything. I must have heard that hundreds of times when I was growing up, because I was a rebel, and I was, a person that was just looking to find my way. And I was really disappointed with my environment, but I was told, you're never going to be successful. You're never going to amount to anything. Well,
awful thing to say to a child.
I proved them wrong.
Yeah. Awful. I was told the same thing, although they told me,
I've written 7 books on natural medicine. I had a radio program for 25 years. I'm a doctor. I've helped over 20,000 patients. I've started my own natural food company. I could go on and on, all the accomplishments, but you know what it was? I decided to prove those people wrong.
They pissed you off. It's a horrible thing to say to a child. And may I submit that you did amount to something, many somethings. Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this broadcast or watching this broadcast and you were told the same thing, and a lot of women have this worthy thing, I'm not worthy to live a good life. May I submit to you that you are worthy, and you do deserve a life of joy. You can get out of the darkness. It's often the first step is the hardest, but it's often just take that first choice and just make the choice and take the step to, I'm going to change my life. It's the only decision you have to make when you first start out. I'm going to change my life. And then I want you to do something really strange. I want you to forgive yourself. I want you to forgive yourself for not being who you thought you should be. I want you to forgive yourself. I want you to forgive yourself for even not being the person my parents want me to be. Well, you're not that person. You're you. You're not who they want you to be. You're you. So the first step is to decide to make a change. And the second step is to forgive yourself.
We have these recorded messages, whether they're people telling us these things like I had in my life, that you're not going to be successful, or you're not going to be able to amount to anything, or whatever it is, you're always going to be overweight. You get these recorded messages that are playing subconsciously, many times in the back of your mind.
Right?
What we need to do is we need to override those messages with new messages. I can become successful. I can lose weight. I can become healthy. I will exercise. These are recordings that you can override those ones that are negative. Isn't that true?
That's true. And then I want everybody to take one other step that everybody forgets. Then I want you to pay attention. Everybody has all these mantras and they put them on their mirrors and they do all these wonderful things, but you have to pay attention to what the universe is bringing to you so you can make it happen. It's like writing a business plan or it's like saying, I want to get married and here are all the attributes that I want in this magical spouse. Well, unless you want to marry the pizza delivery guy, you're going to actually have to go out and do something. Right? So when you do all of these affirmations, I want you to pay attention. Pay attention to what you see. Pay attention to signs. Pay attention to what you read. And I think you're going to be amazed. Try and put away your preconceived notion. The universe never says no to you, and it will bring you opportunities. You just have to pay attention. And if you've got cancer, it might bring you healing opportunities or different modalities or podcasts like this one. Just pay attention to what the world is trying to show you.
So when somebody is trying to change their lifestyle, they're trying to change a habit, and they come across stumbling blocks, they come across these fears, they have many things that are really like roadblocks to them, especially unforgiveness. People are walking around harboring anger, and they're harboring resentment. How do people overcome that big of an obstacle that's just eating them away?
Well, first of all, on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable and 1 being easy, everybody's thinking of their number 10 person. And I submit to you that you don't have to forgive the unforgivable. It may not even be appropriate. Why am I saying that to you? Because there's other people, places, and things. I did say places and things. Stay with me. Other people, places, and things that you can forgive before you even get to that dumpster fire. The person who cut you off on I-95, you can forgive that person. The person in grammar school who stole your lunch, you can forgive that person. Easy people, because it's going to open up your life. Let me give you a visual. And if you're listening to this broadcast, I'm about to hold an opaque coffee cup in front of my face. This coffee cup represents anger, bitterness, hatred. But look at my body language. I don't need a doctor. I could easily hold it off to the side. The longer I hold on to it, the more it's gonna hurt. So now my arms are engaged. It's starting to creep into my brain now. Now, if I continue to hold on to it, now it's in front of my face. I'm missing opportunities because it's all I can think about. It's all I can talk about. I'm living it and breathing it. So forgiveness is a way to allow you to put the anger aside. Now, you're not going to forget the anger because I don't think anybody can. But when using my system, you can neutralize the emotion. So when you look at that person or you look at that memory, it's not gonna cause any emotion in you whatsoever. Now, when you forgive,
what are some of the key elements in your system?
First of all, I want everybody to know that if I forgive you, it doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. Probably don't. If I forgive you, it doesn't mean you were right, because you're not. And forgiveness is selfish. You do it for you. And it's not like a recovery program. You don't have to reach out to the people and contact them. It's private. It's selfish. You do it for you in the privacy of your own home. Nobody has to know that you're doing it. But here's the piece, the secret sauce, as they say. Einstein proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that everything on our planet has energy around it. And energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms. So what people are not missing, and they come to me and they say, well, Mrs. Giovanni, I did forgive them, but I'm mad again. It's because they didn't forgive the energy. You forgive the person and the energy around the person. Forgive yourself, the energy around yourself, and the energy around the whole thing. And if we're talking about somebody in your list of 1 to 10, maybe you've labeled somebody a level 8, and there's worksheets and stuff in the book. Maybe you can't forgive that person. That's fair. Let's pull apart the memory. Let me give you a real quick example. Let's say you drive to work every day, you stop at a red light and you turn your head to the left and there's your grammar school. And you were bullied in grammar school. So the memory pops into your head and you get mad. So you arrive at work angry. So let's go back to that grammar school. Forgive the school, the energy around the school. Forgive the kids who didn't help you. Forgive the table, the desk, the chair, the building, the room. And that's going to be just enough to tip your dial so you can keep going on with your life. It's like running into a brick wall. Everybody says, let's pound through the wall. No, let's pull a few bricks out, walk around the wall, forgive what you can, and keep going and circle back later.
What about using, like affirmations to overcome the anger inside of that? Do you feel that those affirmations are powerful? Do they work? Do you find that those are helpful?
I think they're helpful when you start because it kind of gets the car moving. It's like a little bit of gasoline in that car that's going to start the engine running. What I think is very helpful is when is starting with easy people to forgive, like really easy people, because that's going to start to make you feel better. Now, everybody says anger is toxic. I'm all about the how. And there was, I have science in the book, a whole chapter on it. There was a Japanese water study by a guy named Matsumoto, and it's right online. And and I'm really simplifying this. It's a huge study, but I'm going to simplify it down to nothing, right? 2 containers of water. 1 container of water, he said beautiful words to, just spoke to it, said lovely things to it. The other container of water said nasty, hateful, horrible things to it. Then he put it under a microscope. The water things to turned into these black and brown sludgy formations. The water he spoke love to crystalline, beautiful formations. So why am I telling you this? The human body is about 98% water. So when your self-talk is bad and you're beating yourself up and you're angry and negative and bitter, you're literally turning the cells into your body into sludge. And that's going to affect your orders and that's your organs, and that's going to make you sick. So what forgiveness and gratitude and positivity does, it's going to actually turn everything back the way it was supposed to be from the beginning.
So it reforms and reshapes. You know, there's an interesting study that was done similarly to the water study. It was called The Secret Life of Plants. And scientists took plants and they spoke negatively to the plants, and they played rock music to it. And they played, at the other end of the spectrum, they spoke positive words and they played classical. Lo and behold, the plants that had the classical music and the positive thoughts and the positive words thrived and really grew abundantly. And the ones that received negative words and the toxic, music that was like really harmful and loud and boisterous, it really made the plants wither. So it's a similar study, but it's proving the point. We're living beings, just like plants, and we have molecules, like you said, water. So whatever we do and however we think, is going to transform us into that. That's the same thing. And I think that's a beautiful thought for people to really contemplate, to meditate on, because if we don't make these small changes, and that's not a huge change, it doesn't cost anything. It's just a mental exercise that you could do every day, isn't it?
Your body hears everything you say. Everything you say, your body's listening to. Oh, this cancer is going to kill me. Your body's listening. The cancer might kill you. Am I saying you stage 4 metastatic? I can't pronounce that word. I'm kind of glad I can't pronounce that word. Right? Stage 4 cancer might get you. It might, but you might be able to carve out more months or years in your life. I know a stage 4 breast cancer, a woman who lived 7 years, which was fantastic because they said she would be dead in 3 months, and she didn't die. So I really advocate, don't die until you're dead, people. That's it. Don't die.
I have a story I like to share. It segues right in what you were just talking about. I had a patient. He was only at the time 23 years old. He was having really severe migraine headaches. And so he came into my office and I told him, I said, I'm going to treat you for a couple of weeks. If you don't get better, I'm going to go ahead and refer you out. Well, lo and behold, I referred him out. He wasn't getting any better. And I got him to get an MRI. And he came back and he said, well, I've got cancer. I've got a brain tumor. And I said, look, whatever. And by the way, I told him before he went to get the diagnosis from the doctor, I said, whatever the doctor tells you, do not believe the doctor. Get the diagnosis and then come back to me as soon as you get it. Well, he did. He got the diagnosis of brain tumor. They told me he had 6 months to live.
Right.
He came back and told me that. I said, I'm glad you told me. I said, remember what I told you? They're going to give you a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're going to tell you some bad news. I said, don't believe it like I told you. I said, well, we're absolutely marvelous changes in your lifestyle, in your mindset, in what you eat, how you think, how you move, and all these things that we did with supplementation. And do you know that his neurologist, the surgeon that took and excised the brain tumor, by the way, he said he couldn't get all the brain tumor out. There was like 10% of it left and it was going to metastasize. It never did. And he's lived now 30 years later and he's traveled the world. So it segues exactly what you were talking about.
Best story ever. I love stories like that. Whatever diagnosis you've been given, don't believe it. And I have forgiven breast cancer. Not kidding. I forgave the energy around breast cancer. I forgave the chemo chair. I forgave the doctors. I forgave the radiation table. I forgave all of it. And it helped mitigate my anger at getting breast cancer. And it was one of the tools I used to get through the cancer. And 12 years later, I'm still here. And yes, I ate clean and I gave up, a lot of plastic, and I'm eating clean and organic, and I do all the things. But your mind is incredibly important, and I can't stress that enough. When you need to change your life, forgiveness, gratitude, and positivity are mother's milk. It's 100% what everybody should do every single solitary day.
That's a beautiful story. I'm so happy that you were able to take a proactive role and take charge of your own health. That's what people need to do. They need to not accept hook, line, and sinker what the doctor tells them, even if it's a terrible prognosis. They need to look at the positive and get rid of the negative. I'm going to ask you a question. When people are making changes, are to-do lists any good for them?
Depends on the to-do list. I know people who are very OCD who need their to-do list to keep them forward moving. And I know somebody else that writes their to-do list and puts things on it just so she can cross them off, which is very helpful to her. So yeah, if it works for you, that's great. It's like my forgiveness mantra in the book. It's a very simple poem. I'm a simple soul. But if you want to burn incense while you're doing it, great. You don't have to. If you want to hold a crystal, great, but you don't have to. If these are things that you want to do that helps you, I'm all for it.
So what happens when people hit a wall, when they really have this positive mindset, when they're really doing well? Let's say if somebody's trying to lose weight, they want to lose 100 pounds and they've lost 25 pounds, but they hit a wall. They're not losing anything for like a month, maybe. What do you suggest? And what are some tips you can give them to continue on?
Forgive the wall. Forgive the energy around the wall. You see, sometimes yourself is the hardest person to forgive and move past. But I can forgive my 20-year-old self because I created that persona to survive, and I had limited tools because I hadn't learned a lot of stuff yet. And I'm in my 60s, and it's very easy for me to look back at that kid and say, well, you were a kid, but it was crucial back then. You woke up this morning, the person you were yesterday, different person. Forgive that person. They did the best that they could. So quite often with clients, the first thing I'll have them forgive is forgive yourself for not being able to forgive. Forgive yourself for hitting a wall. Forgive yourself for doing what you had to do. And believe it or not, that's just enough to move the dial in their mind. And then be grateful that you lost the 20. Be grateful that you're here today. Be grateful for the hot cup of coffee and stay as positive as you possibly can. It's a minute by minute job when you're doing something like that. That's usually what I suggest. And my methods are a lot of mindset. Well, and healthy eating and exercise and, drink a lot of water, obviously. Sure. And yes, I have a plant that's 30 years old. So I saw that one too. I talk to it daily.
Wonderful. So give us 3 to 5 things that people can do that they may have in trying to adopt a healthy lifestyle, a healthy mindset, to change a bad habit. What are 3 to 5 really powerful things that people can do?
I want you to write a list of the things you want to do, the things you want to forgive yourself for, the people you're mad at, anything goes. And then I want you to label that list from 1 to 10. And you can do anything you want. You could have 5 number 3s. Don't care. It's absolutely fine. And then I want you to go through the list and I want you to slowly forgive them. Forgive the person, the energy around the person, yourself, the energy around yourself, and the energy around the situation. And then just keep going. And after you forgive somebody, check in with your body. Are you still angry? Okay, well, don't cross the name out. You're going to have to do it again. It's like an onion. You forgive the first layer, more layers might pop up. Maybe you came up to a memory and you said, oh, that's a number 3. I can forgive that. And after you forgive them, you're even more angry than you started. Okay, well, you kind of opened a wasp's nest there. Relabel them to a 7. These are easy. This is an easy thing that you can do. And you forgiving yourself for being stuck, that would be something I would put on my list. And every night before I go to bed, I have a gratitude list and I write down the 3 things I'm most grateful for that happened that day. And maybe it was a rough day and the only thing I can say is I had a great cup of coffee. So be it. It doesn't have to be Moses parting the water all the time. But if you write down what you're grateful for every night before you go to bed, eventually you're going to take a very negative mindset and you're going to turn it into a positive one because you're going to experience more joy and you're going to look at life as more abundant than negative. Oh, and by the way, turn the news off. Just saying.
And commercials. And commercials.
Yep. Oh, please turn the commercials off. But yeah, turn it off. It's well, you know, Catherine, you want me to live in a bubble? Yes, I kind of do. Live in that bubble. Live in a happy bubble. You know, if something really bad in the world happens, there's no doubt in my mind your friends and families will be calling you up and texting you virtually immediately, and you'll know about it. But in the meantime, it's time for you to take care of yourself and do some guided writing and eat some good food and stay positive and practice gratitude. It is literally going to change your life.
Wonderful. Well, okay, let's talk about how we measure success. We don't have a tape measure. We don't have a yardstick that we could use. How do we measure success in that venue of us changing our lifestyle, our mindset, reaching our goals? How do we measure that?
Some people measure it by the stuff that they have. Some people measure it by money. Some people measure it by job title. I measure it by joy. How much joy do I have in my life? How many people have I helped? How many flashlights have I turned on? I like to look at myself as a flashlight and helping other people turn their lights on, which is great for them. But think about where flashlights are turned on. You turn a flashlight on when it's really dark. So good for you. Not so much for me. No, I'm kidding. But I really think that my measure of success is joy. How much joy I've spread, how many people I have helped. It's why I get up in the morning. And not living in a refrigerator box on the street. It also is help. You know, living in financial destitution is not helpful either.
Yeah, so, could you share a story of somebody that you've helped in consult to overcome fear, to overcome unforgiveness, overcome challenges? That a success story you may be able to share with us.
I have a friend who went through medical bankruptcy. They got cancer, and it literally took everything they had. So that's a horrible place to be. I mean, it really is. So through forgiving themselves for getting themselves into that situation, forgiving the pharmaceutical companies, forgiving the medicine, forgiving the disease that they had, went a long way to helping their mental health and get through it. Now, it didn't solve the fact that they had to be in bankruptcy for a set amount of time. It is what it is. But it sure did help their mindset as they got through it. And it helped them, the mindset. They were able to help other people who were also getting strung into this horrible, horrible hole that cancer brings. You know, you're just given a diagnosis and being told you could die. And now, well, you could also be financially destitute and living in the street too. So there you go. That shouldn't be the way. That shouldn't be. That's wrong. But through that changing her mindset really, really helped her get through the disease and helped her stay, you know, keep going.
So it's really good to always look at things in relative perspective. You may have something going on in your life, but somebody else has something worse than you. And so you can appreciate what you have, what they don't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, where you are now, you probably dreamed that you wanted when you were a kid. Right. So there are kids who are dreaming that they were a doctor. There are kids dreaming that they could have a nice house. There's kids dreaming that they could have clean water and food. So I do practice gratitude. I really do practice what I preach. And sometimes I'll just walk into the grocery store and think how blessed we all are that we can go into a grocery store with aisles and aisles of food and water that's relatively clean. Sure. So it's a question of living a positive life as opposed to buying into the negativity of the day.
Sure. Okay, so what if a person is living in an environment where there's just negative mindsets all around them? You know, their spouse is always negative. They're always complaining. They're always, you know, looking at the worst things in life. They're being angry all the time. And you're in that situation. How do you protect yourself and shield yourself from that kind of environment?
Jim Rohn has a very famous quote that's one of my favorites. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So who are you spending your time with? If you can move towards more positive friendships, that's something you can do. Find some people who are more positive and are more forward thinking. But if you're living with these people and you 100% can't get away, Well, then see if you can go online and find podcasts like the one you're listening to now. Find some books that are motivational. The Power of Positive Thinking comes to mind. That's a great book. It's an old book, but it's one of my favorites. Find some books that you can read and some podcasts. And if you don't like to read, go to Audible. There's always something you can do. Go out and find one positive friend. And as you start to change your life, as you start to give the people in your life, the easy ones, we're not even talking about the higher numbers. We're talking about the easy ones. You're going to start to feel better. But the people in your life who want you to stay negative, don't be surprised if they try and sabotage you, because they want you to be as miserable as they are. So just keep on going. Stand in your truth.
Okay, so you've written several books. What are some of the names of the books that you've written?
I have written 12 books, actually.
Wow. I have to get going. I've written 7, so I got to get moving.
I am one of the founders of the independent concierge industry. So I wrote a bunch of books that are business in nature for the concierge industry and customer service. I've also written a number of motivational books. One is called Rainbows and Banana Peels, which is about my breast cancer journey. I wrote The Little Bird on Your Shoulder, which is teaching people how to tap into their intuition. And my latest book is is my forgiveness book, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power. And a lot of my books have audio books, because I do understand not everybody likes to read.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any courses that people could take?
Not yet. I'm working on a forgiveness course as we speak. And I've retired from the concierge industry because 25 years, I think, was enough. I still have a couple books out there if people are interested. But yeah, we're coming out with a forgiveness course soon.
Sure. And where can people get in touch with you?
They can go to my website, and my first name is spelled a little bit strangely, thanks to my mother. Thanks, Mom. Katharine Giovanni.com, KatharineGiovanni.com. And you can also find me on Amazon. There's audiobooks and ebooks and paperbacks and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so what is the in parting now, okay, and I've really enjoyed this time with you, by the way, what is the one thing that you would like to carry with you? If you only had one thing that you could carry with you to help you to overcome challenges, obstacles, anything in your life, what would be the one thing that you would like to carry around?
I am worthy.
Mm-hmm.
I am worthy to have a life of joy. I am worthy to live the life that I want to. I am worthy to have the job that I want to and be with the people that I want to. I am worthy enough that I deserve that. It's your birthright. Mm-hmm. A lot of women in particular have the I'm not worthy gene, and it's for various reasons. But I submit to mostly women out there, you are worthy, and we do believe you.
That's wonderful. Well, we started off this podcast with me sharing my story of how I was told, Jimmy, you're never going to amount to anything. I was told over and over and over again. And, I was fortunate enough to meet some people that really got me thinking in a whole different direction. And I saw the world in a whole different perspective. And when I met these people, it was very much like you telling me that I needed to change the recorded messages in my mind so that the mind was so powerful that I could achieve whatever I wanted. And so I went after that, and I just believed in myself. And thank God that I was able to do that. And I thank God that I was able to meet you and hear your story and be able to share with my listening audience all the positive thoughts that you have given us today. So, Katharine Giovanni, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And with the Other Side of Medicine, really appreciates the perspective you've given us. So I just want to thank you once again.
Thanks so much for having me. It was fun.
Okay, you take care.